Gaza starts a war to kill as many Israelis as possible. And all you see on the BBC and Sky News, as we see in America on our TV, is dead Gazans. That's all you see. I shudder to think if in World War II, the same media covered World War II, you would have seen far more dead German civilians than dead British civilians.
How you guys doing? This is Sahar TV, and in today's video, we'll see one of my favorite speakers on behalf of Israel, Dennis Prager, debating at the Oxford Union that Hamas is a greater obstacle to peace than Israel, and winning. Let's take a look.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I hope my accent enables my words to be heard as clearly as I hope to present them. I find it remarkable. Two things were remarkable, I must say, when I was first invited. One is, I actually did not believe the proposition. It was, and I read it, this House believes that Hamas is a greater threat to peace than Israel. And I give you my word of honor, I actually called Oxford, I went online, I couldn't believe this was an actual proposition. You mean that's debatable? I actually thought for a moment that pro-Israel forces at Oxford had somehow put this into the lineup, as we call it in America, when you put a lineup for your players on your team. I was stunned. The other was when I realized, by God, they really are serious. It must be an academic institution. And I realized, as Orwell said, some things are so foolish, only an intellectual could believe them. And I realized, okay, this is it. This is a Western world tragedy, the amount of nonsense that is often believed in academia. And so this is a debatable proposition at such an illustrious institution. It's actually sad, as I will point out over and over, just appealing to your common sense. You need know nothing about the Middle East to understand how absurd the proposition is. It's of course valid, but that it's debatable is an absurdity. The other is my biography. I must say I have been called many things, including controversial, but of my long resume, just to be described as controversial, may I say to you that to the millions of people that I broadcast to every day, I am not controversial whatsoever. So clearly, those who invited me find it controversial. All right. Let me just give you an analogy. I didn't check, I should have. In the 1930s, was there a debate at this auspicious place? Was there a debate over the following proposition? That Nazi Germany, that Great Britain is a greater threat to peace than Nazi Germany, or Nazi Germany is a greater threat to peace than Great Britain. Was there a debate in the 1930s? That is a perfect analogy to what we are debating tonight. Nazi Germany is to Israel what Nazi Germany was to Britain, what Hamas is to Israel. Whether you agree with Israeli policies or not, and I don't agree with all Israeli policies, it is irrelevant. The question is that analogy fair? So let me ask you a question. I'll take you in a moment, actually in 2 moments. But let me begin. Who is the greater threat to peace? Let's forget Israel, okay? Who is the greater threat to peace in Syria? ISIS or Israel? Who is the greater threat to peace in Lebanon?
Everyone is interested in the platform you announced. Could you tell us more about it?
Now, Canadian citizens have the opportunity to earn up to $1,000 a day through investing. We're introducing a new and innovative approach to generating passive income. Our users are earning
Sorry about that.
This girl is so entitled, I want to smack her in the face. A metaphorical slap, of course.
Hezbollah or Israel? Who is the greater threat to peace in Egypt? The Muslim Brotherhood or Israel? Do you understand? In every case, everyone in this room would acknowledge that ISIS is a greater threat to peace in Syria than Israel. In every person in this room, I have to believe, even Professor Schlein, would have to agree that ISIS is a greater threat, that the Muslim Brotherhood is a greater threat, and that Hezbollah is a greater threat. All of a sudden, we change the entire scenario because it is now Hamas instead of Hezbollah or ISIS or Muslim Brotherhood. Number two, on this issue, just appealing to your common sense. In modern history, every war has been between a free state and a police state, or two police states. I cannot think of a 20th century example of any other. And the same holds true here. You have the police state of Hamas. If you differ with Hamas, they kill you. Where in the world, other than Israel, does anyone ever argue that the free state doesn't want peace and the police state wants peace? There is no other example on earth. There is no other example on earth of a country targeted for extinction. None. 220 some odd countries in this world. Only Israel is targeted for extinction. And we have a debate on whether the state targeted for extinction is the barrier to peace. That is quite a leap of faith. In the age of beheadings, as you have tragically experienced here in the UK, we have a debate. Hamas is a kindred spirit to ISIS and Hezbollah and Boko Haram. What do you think, they're an exception? All of those are monstrous. But Hamas, they're a terrific bunch who really want peace.
Just to give you a little bit of a clarification, Hamas, ISIS, all of these organizations all stem out from the Muslim Brotherhood with one goal: to establish Sharia law worldwide.
If it only weren't for settlements. There were no settlements prior to 1967. Why wasn't there peace? Israel would dismantle the settlements for real peace in a moment, because the Israeli people are much more interested in sending their kids to college and in having a peaceful life and in making a good living and inventing more medical and technological devices than they are in fighting wars. This would be the first free state in history to prefer war to peace. It is highly, highly unlikely. The Hamas covenant, which you heard from Adam earlier, the Hamas covenant, it says Israel will exist and will continue to exist until Islam will obliterate it, just as it obliterated others before it. If I could have extra time, over 8 minutes, I would take your question, but I have too much to get through. The Islamic resistance movement is a distinguished Palestinian movement whose allegiance is to Allah and whose way of life is Islam. It strives to raise the banner of Allah over every inch of Palestine. Yale University translation. I'm sure they didn't use inch in the original.
She's about to burst. But to the people saying it's not a religious conflict, here's your proof that this is a religious conflict. Let's continue.
Exact point.
So that is what Hamas is devoted to. Now, yes, I can. Oh, then please.
So all of the organizations that you're citing as a threat to peace just happen to be Arab and or Muslim. Could you explain to me why you think that might be the case, that you only view these organizations as threats to peace?
I don't.
That is the most idiotic point I've ever heard in my life. Of course they're Muslim. They need to wage war to spread Islam. It's called jihad. They want to impose a holy war to spread this Sharia and create an Islamic Khilafah. That's what they want to do, and that's why they're all Muslim.
Okay. You obviously, those of you who applauded perceived the profundity of the question that I didn't. I don't quite understand. They are all a threat to peace. That is correct. Why did I only pick on Arab Muslim? I said Boko Haram. That is not Arab.
Arab and or Muslim.
Yes, Arab and or Muslim. That is correct. The only beheading groups in the world today, to the best of my knowledge, are Arab or Muslim.
Why do you think that is, in your estimation?
Why do I think that is? Sad to say, it was answered by Arab intellectuals at the United Nations, because the Arab world is a benighted place at this time. The status of women is particularly low. The Arab world translates fewer books in a year than in 10 years than Greece. The entire Arab world translates fewer books than Greece does in 1 year. There is no interest in the foreign world. It is a benighted world, the Arab world. It is a tragedy. This is not anti-Arab. If you love Arabs, you have to understand how low the moral level of the Arab world at this point is. And that has nothing to do with individual Arabs who may be saintly, but that is the dominant moral state. You are taught that you cannot judge civilizations, as if Britain and and Mali are on the same immoral level.
No, not.
That is to give up on hope for humanity, to claim that there is no civilization that has produced something better than something else. So that is the tragic reason. They're not beheading people in Western civilization. They are in the Arab and Muslim worlds, and not the entire Muslim world. Now, why then? My second part is to answer the question, why is something so obvious that Israel wants peace and that Hamas wants to destroy Israel? Why is that debated at one of the most illustrious academic institutions on earth, Oxford? I have two answers. One is there has been a broken moral compass in the intellectual world in the West for the last perhaps 80 or 100 years. I will give you an example. I studied at Columbia University at the School of International Affairs. I was taught by brilliant, and they were brilliant, professors that the United States and the Soviet Union were moral equivalents. It was capitalism versus communism, two economic theories, that's all. Neither was better than the other. You may not recall because you weren't born, many of you, but Ronald Reagan, the president of the United States, called the Soviet Union at one point an evil empire. He was lambasted. He was declared by Columbia and Harvard and Yale and Princeton and the New York Times a fool for having the temerity to make a moral statement about the Soviet Union, a place that had created the Gulag Archipelago and killed 40 million of its own people, not to mention a genocide in Ukraine.
Everyone is interested in the platform you announced. Could you tell us more about it?
This platform has already brought thousands of dollars in profit to many. That is what I tell you, students. That's what has taken over in Western universities, a broken moral compass that truly calls evil good and good evil. I went through this, and I'm afraid many of you are going through this. This evening is one such example. And finally, the media. The media gives you a jaundiced view of the world. Gaza starts a war to kill as many Israelis as possible. And all you see on the BBC and Sky News, as we see in America on our TV, is dead Gazans. That's all you see. I shudder to think if in World War II the same media covered World War II, you would have seen far more dead German civilians than dead British civilians. But it takes a very, very frail moral mind to believe that you determine right and wrong by the number of dead.
Dennis said this sentence 10 years ago. This is 2025. We are currently at war with Hamas, and this is exactly what's happening. Because this has been their tactic all along. How come 10 years ago he was able to foresee it? Because that's what they do all the time. They're always building on the dead children, dead women, starvation that they impose. It's disgusting. And he was able to see it 10 years ago. I mean, all of us were, but he was just able to call it out publicly.
That's what we are told. Look at how many Gazans were killed and how few Israelis. Well, look at how few Brits were killed and how many more Germans were. Does that make the Germans right in World War II? That's the facile moral thinking that pervades our world. So I end with this, and that is, it would be a tragedy, in my opinion, if it came out, if it were known, the Oxford Union actually determined that Israel and not Hamas were the greater threat to peace. Outside of the world of academia, it is pretty clear. It's got to be clear here too. Thank you very much.
Guys, I know it's going to be hard to believe, but Dennis Prager and his team were able to win this debate 10 years ago. If the same debate would have been held right now at the Oxford Union, they would have lost. Why? Because people are getting brainwashed. Brainwashed by the media, just like Dennis said. Brainwashed by Hamas, just like Dennis said. It's all one big plot against Israel. And this question is ridiculous. Of course, Hamas is the obstacle for peace. If Hamas would not have attacked on October 7th, nobody would have to be dead right now, both in Gaza and in Israel. They put themselves in this situation. And Israel must do everything in their power to finish the situation we're at right now until Hamas is obliterated and the hostages are back. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit that notification button. If you'd like to support me financially, you can do that using Buy Me Coffee or Patreon down in the links in the description. You can also join the Discord and be a part of the discussion, and you can become a YouTube member and enjoy specific
What do you think,
perks. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you again in the next video.
That was back in my days too.
Right now, I'm east of Sudbury.